Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. Today is Wednesday, March 24th, and a lot has been on my mind recently. And I was thinking about the Miami Spring Breakers on the weekend that went down to Miami. 51% of those people, at least 51%, were not even from the area. They're from all over the planet. Partying without masks, not social distancing, doing all the things you're not supposed to do in a pandemic, even though restrictions are lifting, and vaccinations are going out. These individuals could carry, and not even the COVID-19, but new strains of COVID is plaguing Miami right now, plaguing that area, and they're sharing whatever that is and taking it back to their hometowns all over the planet. We don't know the repercussions of this yet. I had no idea spring break was such a big deal. In college, I went to spring break. Miami, I went to the same place, Collins Boulevard. We stayed, the friend stayed down there. But it wasn't a big deal. Like, if we couldn't do it any one year in college, it was fine. We did stuff locally. It wasn't like a big thing to go to Miami or go party and do that. And that was 15 years ago, right? Before you could be comfortably sat in your house and have movies and stuff streaming on your TV, have food brought to your door with Uber Eats, whatever. Have lots of social media stuff to interact with people. This is before all this. And we were fine with just staying locally and just doing local boring shit spring break. But these guys want to go and socialize. And it's just sad to see this. And these are young college kids. I mean, they're not like uneducated people, but they just don't, it's just a lack of empathy. And I was thinking back to this book I read in college by E.O. Wilson. It was called The Future of Life. And in it, he talks about, I'm hoping that's the book. I read a lot of his books, but he has this concept of bottlenecks in civilization, but species, right? And if you study all the species that have existed on Earth, going back to ocean life, the goal of every species when it springs into existence is to multiply, right? We have sex, we have reproduction, and you just want to multiply, and take full advantage, right? Our genetic code seems to be built into us from going back to ocean life, from single cellular organisms. Our DNA is encoded to multiply, to do two things, basically, right? If you break down living creatures, living organisms to like two basic things, right? It's to multiply, reproduce, and take full advantage of your environment. Meaning you harvest the resources, you avoid dangers to keep yourself and your offsprings alive. Above all else, those are the two main, if you want to question what's the meaning of life, that's it, right? To reproduce and to take full advantage of the environment around you. And that's harvesting all the resources for yourself and your offspring, right? There's nothing in the DNA code that says you have to share with other people or preserve it or conserve anything. It's just take advantage, right? Eat as much as you can, basically. It's just reproduce, have sex, and eat. That's it. That's kind of one of the jokes in the science circle of this study. Is our secret of life is to have sex, lots of sex, and eat lots of food. This is basically it. It's when you think about it, the genetic code, if you break down the purpose of any species, that's it. To eat, stay alive long enough to have sex and reproduce. That's it. There's nothing really else to do when you're come into existence in this universe, right? Yeah, you could add exploration into that. You could, as far as taking advantage of your environment to the full extent, humans have done that with civilization. That's basically what civilization is species taking full advantage of their environment. Building homes, having heat, running water, plumbing, automobiles, roads, garbage collections, structures of basic elements of a working, functioning civilization. Now, there's a flaw in this, right? That they realize when you study back, and this way, this code in everyone's DNA, every living thing DNA is on this planet has this code, from plants to us, right? The issue with this is the environment we live in is very limited. And when you get to a point where you have, I guess, a lot of sex, and you have your civilization it grows from a few hundred to thousands, and it multiplies to millions and millions and billions of individual things in that civilization or species. You have lots of imperfections in the DNA, and then you have a constraint where the strongest of that species is limited by the weakest, dumbest, slowest elements of that species, or things in that species, right? And I think back to this, and that's what the bottleneck is. So a bottleneck is basically when you encounter something that threatens the entire species, right? Regardless of what level of class you're in within the species, it threatens everything that has that DNA code. COVID-19 is a great example of this, as a bottleneck, right? And COVID-19, I always tell people, this is like a soft case end world virus scenario, right? All you gotta do is wear a mask and you're fine. It's not a zombie virus. It's not like an instant death virus. You know, your head isn't exploding instantaneously virus. It's just you get it, you get sick. Some people, elderly and pre-existing conditions, would die or get extremely sick from it, right? Not everyone's dying. Not everyone's becoming zombies, right? This is, if there's any virus to prepare us going forward into the future for dealing with stuff like this, is COVID-19. It's the best like trial software you get in your laptop or your computers. This is the best trial virus software you could get. And I know a lot of people have died from it. There's no joking matter. But in preparing us to move forward for the next bottleneck when it comes, COVID-19 is the best case scenario, right? Only because it's so easy to prevent. And then I think about the Miami Spring Breakers, and I'm like, don't they care? And I think about the smartest person in this country, on the planet now, right, is at the mercy of these idiots at Miami Spring Break, right? Now, we as a society, as a species now, we're only as smart and stupid, we're only as smart and sensible and empathetic as those Miami Spring Breakers, because they're leaving Miami today, tomorrow, as I'm making this video. They're leaving Miami right now, and whatever they have in their bodies, they're taking it back to their hometown. I'm not saying they all have COVID-19 or new variants of it, but I don't know what's going to happen next week or 2 weeks from now. Is it going to be a spike of these new variants? That's the thing with viruses. Whilst we're like sitting on our asses, debating whether to wear a mask or whether there's social distancing or whether to even take a vaccine, COVID-19 is mutating. It doesn't give a shit about what we feel, our feelings, right? That's how viruses work. That's how organisms work. That's how species work. And if we think about us being threatened, what about COVID-19 as a virus? What is the point of them? What's the point of a COVID-19? COVID-19 just wants to infect as many people as possible, and reproduce itself in many ways, many variations as possible, right? So you have to look at this like Joe Biden said, it's an attack on America, right? It's an attack on humanity. That's what viruses are, right? We can't sit on our asses and like, oh, it's not going to happen to me. I don't know about this vaccine. I don't trust another human, but I trust the virus. It's so idiotic. And I think we're only as smart, literally, like if you want to debate and make this political, we're only as smart, regardless of your politics, your education, you're only as smart as the dumbest person in your species, right? So if the dumb people are Miami Spring Breakers, or people that don't want to wear a mask, or people that believe in space lasers and QAnon bullshit, we're all at their mercy, basically, right? And that's what a bottleneck is. And basically, the way bottlenecks work is as a species approach some sort of capacity, right, in their environment, things come up, imperfections come up in the DNA, viruses come up, and these challenges sometimes, as written in the book, could slice a species in half. From 50% to 90% of a species could just be gone, in face of a tragedy like a virus, like COVID-19. And the beauty of these bottlenecks is like the bottleneck comes in, so society's happy. It's we're expanding, we're multiplying, we're having sex, we're eating, And then the bottleneck comes in, a virus, say COVID-19, boom. Hey, what's up, guys? We're gonna take, we want part of this too. And COVID-19 just ravages. If COVID-19 was a real thing, it could take away 90% of the population. And then we bottleneck to like maybe the 10% that's remaining is resilient to COVID-19. And then we get past, and then COVID-19 isn't a thing anymore. And that's the bottleneck. So that 10% of that species would carry their genetic DNA to a future that's resistant to COVID-19. And then we expand again, and and then there's the next bottleneck. There's always going to be a bottleneck at every junction, at every so often in civilization. It could be a volcano. It could be something like a volcano. It could be an asteroid. It could be a bunch of things that would get rid of a species like that, or get rid of most of the species. So we have to always think of these bottlenecks when we talk about civilizations and the future of mankind and where we want to go. And I think for COVID-19, and this is the point of this video, and this is what's been keeping me up, what's the issue here? Is it COVID-19? COVID-19 is not really a threat, right? The biggest threat, I think, out of 2020, it wasn't COVID-19, it was us. It was humans, right? We did this to ourselves, right? Our ignorance, our lack of empathy is what's killing us, basically. 500,000 people died last year, in a year. 500,000 Americans, right? I'm not talking about the planet. Those people died, right? Not because of COVID-19, but because of our ignorance as humans. We don't care, right? Think about that. Think about that when you go outside today, or go outside tomorrow, or look at your kids, right? Or look at someone else's kids. Or when you look in your calendar for future plans. Think about what killed 500,000 Americans last year. Was it really COVID-19? Right? It was our ignorance and our lack of empathy, and we were only as smart, as sensible, as empathetic as the dumbest, most ignorant, most least empathetic, selfish person in America. Who was that? Donald Trump, right? And think about that. Think about what killed 500,000 people. Wasn't COVID-19. COVID-19 was on a death certificate, sure, but think about what really did it, right? If a guy walks into a store with a gun and shoots 10 people or 8 people, right? The death certificate would say death by gunshots, right? But what really killed those people was the guy. His mental state is what made him go in there with the gun, right? So think about what's killing these people, and what kills anyone, if you think about it. Is it the bullet in the gun? Is it the gun? Is it the hand that's holding the gun? Is it the arm that's connected to the hand, right? Or is it the person behind the whole thing? The person that's thinking, I'm gonna do this. I don't care about life. Doesn't bother me if someone dies, right? And we all are leaving this bottleneck, and it's not even a bottleneck, COVID-19. It's mild bottleneck, right? What we take out of COVID-19, right, will determine how we encounter the next true bottleneck in civilization, right? And I don't think humans have a chance in hell, right? The next virus that comes out of this, and these SARS viruses are all around, they're always mutating, right? When we're sleeping, their COVID-19 is up doing homework, right? Doing exercises, right? While we're sleeping, right? So the next SARS virus, or the next bottleneck that we encounter as society, we're doomed, right? Because we learned nothing from COVID-19. We're learning nothing from COVID-19, right? A good part of this country don't want to take vaccines. I always tell people, oh, you don't want to take the COVID-19 vaccine, but you trust a virus, but you don't trust a vaccine, right? You think the government is going to put a microchip in you, right? But yet you're on your iPhones and your iPads and your computers, right? If the government wanted to track people, they could do it easily. They're already doing it, right? They don't need microchips in a vaccine to track you. That's BS, right? There's no conspiracy with vaccines, right? Governments don't. The point of a government isn't to spy on people, right? The point of the government is to make money from people, right? To have you home sick isn't making anyone money. To give you guys stimulus checks isn't making the government money, right? So if I don't say people that don't want to take vaccines for COVID-19, I would say I wonder what happened to the people that didn't want to take the smallpox vaccine or the polio vaccines or measles vaccines, right? Where are those people? What happened to their voices? You know what happened to them? They died, right? They died, right? So think about that, right? If you want to voice against taking the vaccine, where would you be, 10 years from now, right? And that's the thing with the vaccines. That's why I'm going to take a vaccine, because I know COVID-19 is mutating, right? As we make up our minds about masks and vaccines and social distancing and open up businesses because I want to make money again. COVID-19, I'm telling you, COVID-19 is doing like mat exercises and gymnastics in the next room, mutating, changing into something deadlier. So think about that. I know this is a long video, but it's been on my mind for a year now. In this pandemic, we're not learning anything from this. I don't see us going ahead. If 10% of people learn from this and 90% just don't care, it's just sad. And the next thing that comes out is just gonna be really bad. Like 500,000 people died from this. Could you believe that? A virus that could have been prevented basically by staying home and wearing a mask and washing your hands. And just think about that. 500,000 people, right? It's not the Black Plague. It's not the Spanish influenza. It's COVID-19. You wear a mask, you wash your hands, you stay home. You just be careful when you're outside around other people.